Good morning, it's 8 o'clock. It is the 12th day of October 2021, and I am your humble or not so humble guide to all the tabletop role-playing game news, weather, and sports, the OGGM. Tonight on Gatekeprs, Bruce is going to be leading a discussion on figures and I guess props and painting figures for all the various games that use figures. Dungeons & Dragons has been known to use figures. Warhammer, of course, uses figures. Lots of games have figures, and lots of games use figures, and lots of games don't use figures. Some people love figures and props and the Dwarven Forge stuff, and other people are like, I can't afford it. I don't have room for it. I can't paint very well, and it really seems to get in the way. I prefer theater of mind. I'm kind of in a sort of a middle-ish. I love figures. I love props. I love the Dwarven Forge stuff. I wish I had the room for it and the money for it. My painting skills are, I don't know, I haven't painted in a long time. My painting history is like, I started painting, I was crap, like most people. I got slowly better. I talked to other painters. I had friends who painted, and I got better. And then I painted this one figure that was as good or better than the stuff in this picture. It was Warhammer 40K quality. I mean, just the amount of detail I was able to get in. It was like my one perfect moment of figure painting. And every figure I tried to paint after that kind of sort of went down. It's like I had my perfect moment, my epiphany of figure painting. I painted this figure. It was amazing. And nothing else I could do since compared. And I tried. And then I just, and I followed a lot of painting guides, and I watched videos, and I talked to people, but I could never get as good as that one figure. And then it got destroyed. And then the plastic figures came out. Pre-painted plastic figures came out, and I was like, well, these exist. These are great. These fill all my needs. I don't see any reason to paint anymore when people who are much more talented and deserving are doing it for me, and I can just, fork down $5, $10, $15, $20 and get a bunch of pre-painted figures and not have to worry about it. So, yeah. And then I just got to the point in my life where I don't have room for the figures. I don't have the money for the figures. I don't really use them a lot. I'm kind of now of the theory of whatever works, which is kind of going back to how we originally did it when, in the old days, we didn't have figures, so we just used whatever. Rocks, pennies, dice, Green Army Man, M&Ms, just whatever. If it got to a situation where we needed to know where things were, just Hot Wheels, just whatever happened to be laying around, because figures were not abundant, and the ones that were available, were just sort of these lumps of lead that occasionally sort of looked like the creature that you wanted, and they were expensive, and we're a bunch of kids, and we're like, we don't have a lot of room for these things. They're expensive. They don't, Green Army Men got used a lot, of course. Rocks. Nowadays, I'm kind of back in that same place. I don't own a lot of figures. I don't have a lot of figures. I tend to focus on figures that I can use to represent multiple things. Like this could be an orc or an ogre or a demon, because it's just this sort of generic, tough-looking bad guy creature that I could use for anything. And then I have a couple sort of generic, all-purpose player character figures that would represent pretty much anything. Here's a guy holding a stick. That could be a wizard. That could be a fighter. That could be an NPC holding a stick. So my figure collection isn't very big. It's mostly pre-painted figures. It's very eclectic, and and again, I'm at the point in my life where just whatever works. If we need figures, and we'll use what we have, or just you don't have a figure, great, use whatever you can find: a rock, an M&M, a dice, a penny, a Hot Wheel, a Green Army Man. So Bruce and company are going to be talking about figures and painting and props tonight. So I thought I would tell one of my favorite / saddest figure stories. So I was in a game several years ago with a DM who loved figures and loved props and loved sets. And he would always set up these amazing prop figure based things for us to go through, So he would use whatever he had. He would use the Dwarven Forge stuff, he would use toys, he would use board games, and he just had this amazing ability to link them all together between maps and figures and props to map out the scenes that we were going through. So we were going through this adventure, and basically it was sort of his take on the classic Dungeons & Dragons module, A Paladin in Hell, plus a couple other things that he had sort of mashed together. But basically, he had, in his garage, over a 2-week period, built this amazing diorama. I mean, really, really almost art level of just cobbled together board game pieces, figures, official D&D product, Dwarven Forge product, Legos. He had just taken everything he could find in his house and a few other things he's purchased and built in the space of his garage this amazing diorama. And I was lucky enough to catch a glimpse of it before the game started, and I was just like, oh my God, because I have a fascination with model railroads and figures and the Dwarven Forge stuff and toys. I was so excited because he had a history of making these incredible sets for us to go through, and now he had gone all out for, I guess this was supposed to be the grand climax of the campaign, or at least just a major aspect of the campaign. And I looked through the garage as we were going into his house, and I caught out of the corner of my eyes, and my heart just stopped. What little bit I saw, I was like, oh my God. And the little kid in me is like, oh my God, I can't wait till we get to play with that. It just looks amazing, and I want to know everything about every inch of detail that you put into the amount of work that I saw. So we go in my house and we're playing, and I can't wait. And we're getting to the moment where we're going to go into the setting, the dungeon, the demi-plane, hell, whatever it was supposed to be. And we're about to leave the room and go into the garage. And I was so excited, and he was so excited. And I knew he was looking forward to showing us what he had made. And we're literally at the doors to the encounter at the moment when he was going to lead us out of his room in his house and take us into the garage and show us this amazing display. And then everybody sort of, except for me, came up with this collective unconscious idea: let's not go in. Let's go back to town and buy more gear. And maybe find magic items we could buy, because we aren't ready for this encounter. Now, mind you, he had been building up to this encounter for weeks. He had been giving us so many clues, so many props, so much just looking forward to this encounter, to this dungeon that was beyond these doors. And everything we've been doing for the past 2 months was leading up to this. So he had been planning it for a while. And we were high level, so it's not like we didn't lack an abundance of stuff. I mean, I came in late to the game, and I was actually on my second character, and I was the least equipped of all the characters at the table. And still, when I looked at my list, I'm like, wow, I've got a reasonable amount of stuff. I mean, even though I'm a couple levels lower than everybody else and I don't have as much stuff as some of the other people have, I'm doing a lot of this is 3.5 D&D. I'm pretty tough. I'm pretty stoked out. I'm not even sure my character can carry more stuff. I got to maybe leave some stuff behind and put it in like a bank or something, because I got a lot of stuff. And they've got even more stuff. And we are more than ready to go into this encounter. But at the last minute, I guess maybe they decided it was going to be too hard. Or they just didn't have enough stuff. So they needed to go back to town to get more stuff. And the rest of the night became basically shopping for stuff and trying to find magic items for sale in a town where there weren't any. So of the 4 or 5 players, 4 of them somehow all decided we needed to go back to town and buy more magic items and buy more stuff that we didn't need. And we weren't, and there was no guarantee the stuff they were looking for was even in the town. It's not like we'd ever really bought magic items from towns before, occasionally potions and scrolls, and maybe getting wands recharged. But, these guys were looking for like major league, high level +4 items and wishes, and the wizard wanted a staff with a power because, and plus he'd been giving us stuff, and plus there was tons of stuff waiting for us. So literally we're at the door, and literally my character who's in the lead, because I'm taking the role of the rogue because we didn't have one, and I just, I think, I was a ranger, so sort of a ranger. It was weird. But I had the closest to thievy stuff. I had really high perception and really high skills, and like, even though I wasn't really a thief. It's weird because my character went through some weirdness in that game, but for sake of argument, I was the thief, and I'm literally about to touch the doors to go into this thing, and I know what's waiting for us in the garage, and I can't wait to go in the garage and play with these toys with him. And everybody decides, let's go to town and shop. And it was so disappointing. And plus, I couldn't come up with a reason why my character needed to go to town to stuff. My whole thing was, I'm light on my feet. I don't carry a lot of stuff. I don't have a high strength. I don't really need a lot of stuff. Everything I have that I'm going to need, I probably have on me. And if not, I've got it stored and I can go get it because I had one of my things was I had a Liam's teeny hut. My character was very sort of obsessed with the Liam's secret chest, Liam's teeny hut idea. So she collected chests. Every time we came across a chest, she picked it up. And at her little house, she had every chest we'd ever found because she just collected them. That was her thing. So I had like 2 separate Liam and teeny chests set up, plus a bag of holding, because my character was kind of a pack rat and just would just take anything. Didn't matter whether it was valuable or not. She was very obsessed with things, especially things that she could put things inside, which is a whole nother story. And yes, I was playing a female at the time. And they left. They went shopping. And there's just the disappointment on his face and the disappointment on my face. And knowing that was waiting for us, and we didn't go. And then, of course, there was a break because we only played every other week. And we came back, and I was like, are we going to go? Are we going to see it? And he's like, no. I spent all this energy building this, and no, they went someplace else. They've sort of changed the story, so I didn't rebuild it. And the game went elsewhere, and I never got to play with the toys he built in the garage. So I guess my point is, because I know Bruce is going to be talking about figures and props today, that as much as I love them, they have a very limited use if your players decide they don't want to go there, or they place them in a situation where they decide, I don't want to go there. You've just bought all these figures. You've just set up this encounter. You've just brought all these things that are heavy and fragile and valuable to a game, and suddenly they decide, let's go shopping. And then you're like, I set this thing up. So I love figures. I love props. I would love to have them. I would love to use them. I would love to paint them. I don't have the room. I don't have the money. And then there's always that story is always in my head. Investing all that time and energy in setting this amazing prop-based encounter up, there's always that fear that they're not going to go there, that I'm not going to get to use them. So why not just use theater of the mind, and use whatever comes up? And instead of investing that money and that time and that creativity in these props and these figures, just, have a couple general figures that could represent a whole bunch of things. And, if it comes to a situation where you need a prop, don't spend 20, 30, 40, 50, $100 on something you might use once or never out at all. Just use whatever happens to be hanging around. That's my theory anyways. And maybe I'm completely wrong, because I love those props and I love those toys and I love those figures. And I would love to be able to play with them, but I'm always afraid they're going to get braked. Or I'm always going to remember that story of a garage that somebody had spent 2 weeks building up into this model railroad level of amazing diorama, and all the players at the last minute deciding, no, let's not go to Disneyland. Let's go to the 7-Eleven instead. That's my story about figures. I am your guide to all the tabletop role-playing game news, weather, and sports, the OGGM. If you like what the words that are coming out of my mouth, let me know down below. If you don't agree with me, let me know down below. What is your favorite story about figures and props and dioramas? Let me know. If you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe. Support me through the various ways you can support me, like Locals and Ko-Fi and the PayPal. And also, hey, I have merch now. I have one actual piece of merch in my Teespring shop. So check that out as well. All the links are in the description. I hope you have a great day. Talk to you soon. Happy holidays, and get off my land.